Last Fabric Friday, we talked to you about autumn shades of jersey knit. And I shared with you the fact that I'm going to make a couple of t-shirts this week. And we talked about 4 specific t-shirts, 2 of which are the McCalls 6964 and the Lark tee from Grainline Studios. The McCalls, I just want to note, the McCalls is now a Batik pattern, and on our website you're going to see the Batik image, but you might see this one as well, okay? But what I want to share with you is the similarities and the differences between the front pattern pieces and the sleeves of both of these patterns. So let's start with McCalls, and this is the McCalls pattern. Here's the front pattern piece. Center front is on the fold. Here's the round neck. Here's our shoulder seam, the sleeve opening, and starting at your underarm, down through the bust, waist, and hip, with a little bit of a slight curve at the hem. So this is a pretty standard t-shirt layout, and the pattern itself is written so that it's got a lot of instructions on how to fit. And this is why there are so many different lines sharing with you how to fit this particular pattern to your body. Okay, so follow along with that if you've never made a t-shirt before. So here is the McCalls 6964 front. Let's share with you the Grainline front. And this I cut out for a V-neck because I'm going to make a V-neck. But don't worry about the neckline. That is not my point on this particular video. Here's our center front fold. Here's our neckline. Here's our shoulder seam. Here's our sleeve opening. Here's the underarm where we have our bust down to the waist and to the hip. And our hemline is straight. So we have some differences. This one is definitely a little bit more open and forgiving on the arm. And then we have a simple, straight, relatively straight, very little curve on this particular jersey knit top. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to flip. No, I'm not going to lay it like that. We're going to put these superimposed on one another. I'm going to line up my center fronts. Don't worry about the neckline. But I'm going to slide this up so that I'm dealing with the shoulder seam at the same position, okay? So what I have here is a shoulder seam that is offset a little bit. Here's our arm opening here versus way underneath here. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. I'll flip these around the other way so you can see the difference as well. We have a higher sleeve on the McCalls. A little bit tighter opening here. So this is going to come down on your shoulder and this is going to come up in your underarm. We're about exactly the same, the difference between a 14 and a 12 on our underarm here, or right across our high bust. And then we start to change dramatically. We have a really deep curve here. What I say is a deep curve is a grade. So we're our size difference between the Lark and the McCalls at our waist. And then we jump back out and we have about the same measurement on our hip. So the only difference is here that our waist is a little bit more defined on the McCalls pattern than it is on the Lark. And our hemline is slightly different. And again, these are written for people of different sizes and heights. So you may need to adjust one or the other to be the right length for you. What I'm going to do, I made the first top that I made, and I think it was the one that was hanging out of the Phoenix Purple Magic that was hanging in our display. That is this long, okay? And it's quite long. I'm actually going to take 5 inches off for my next garment. And so I'm going to move this. Here's my lengthen and shorten line. So I'm going to move this up and be 5 inches shorter there, which is going to bring my hip up a little bit there. And I'll show you that on a future video. But I wanted to share with you the differences between these two. Now let me flip this over the other way so that you can see. Again, I'm going to line up my shoulder and my center front. And oops, slide that back over. So I have a straighter, but my waist is fuller on the Lark than it is on the McCalls. My sleeve drops here, okay? And I have a smaller shoulder seam up here. It's a smaller, so my sleeve is gonna come into my shoulder area, the front of my body into my shoulder further in, okay? So those are the differences between the fronts of these two patterns. Now what I want to share with you is the sleeve. Okay, the McCalls sleeve here, and I'm going to make a 3/4 length, which goes down to about right here, okay? And it's just your traditional sleeve, and it matches, of course, the opening of the arm. Here is the grain line sleeve, and I'm going to simply match these at the opening of the arm here and down. And so the 3/4 length here is quite long. This is not the long sleeve. This is the 3/4 length versus the 3/4 length here. And this curve is much higher, which is very different because of the differences in the sleeve opening of the front and back of the garment. It is slightly slender. The Lark is slightly slender than the McCalls. So I'm going to flip these around so you can see the top of the arm or the shoulder arch here on the sleeve. Okay. So I'm going to line up my arm, the points right here. You see the difference here? So this sleeve needs to go higher onto the body than this one does because of the, oh my goodness, it's almost an inch difference up here. So those are the only differences between the two garments, both of which are simple and basic t-shirts. So I'm still going to go ahead and make the Lark, and we're going to have some fun.